Hello everyone, we're going to start a new series and I hope you guys are just as excited as I am. If I sound like hammered shit right now, it's because I'm battling a cold. At least I hope it's a cold. If it's COVID, I might be fucked. But in any case, we start off this podcast that talks about the weird, disturbing, uncomfortable, and downright controversial lost media all around the world. We are starting off light, something that's truly child's play. Really a playground rumor compared to everything else we will be covering from this point forward. A recent urban legend, fairly recent urban legend, 10 years ago is not that far back, it's not even 10 years old. Well, actually it might be. We're going to be discussing a legendary piece of fabled pornography. One that involves a Serbian pornographic actress and a giant spider. You are listening to Out of Sight, Out of Mind. No, you don't have cobwebs in your ears, you heard me correctly. The pornographic tape involving a Serbian porn actress. And it's not a particularly far back rumor. It originated off of 4chan from as far as my research has led me to believe. Like this is the genesis of it. I am getting a little bit ahead of myself, but just for context, when you think of lost media, typically you think of like a VHS tape because something that's digital and lost at the same time kind of goes against each other. Those are two things that don't really coexist because there's this long-standing piece of conventional wisdom that the internet doesn't forget. It never forgets. You can't really erase anything from the internet. There's always a paper trail. And considering how much media has been found, disturbing or not, that has been previously deemed lost, it seems like that notion becomes more and more true every day. But for context, this urban legend, as far as I know, the earliest that it goes back to, according to 4chan, is 2012. And also, just before I go any further, I really apologize for any sort of audio abnormalities because my microphone wire is just kind of fucked up. I know, why would I start a podcast with a fucked up wire? It doesn't happen that often, but sometimes it does, and I don't really know what causes it. I might need to get either a new wire or a new microphone. I still got to shoot it out. I hope it's a new wire. Those things are not very inexpensive on its own, but, better than a new microphone. Back on topic, how did I find out about this urban legend? Well, I found out about it through the fairly popular conspiracy iceberg. Now, it's a bit of a weird entry. I don't know why it's there, because as far as I know, there's really no conspiracy attached to it, but whatever. That's where I found it. If you want to look at the conspiracy iceberg yourself, go right ahead. I promise you it's there. They're going to have to dig through a lot of entries and a whole lot of fucking crazy. So just be ready for that. Anyway, that's where I found it. And upon doing my own research, I went to Dead Rabbit Radio, which is a great podcast. I highly recommend it. Great source of information. And if it wasn't for him, this podcast wouldn't even start because he's a big inspiration. But the other thing that is relevant to the subject is that I wouldn't have half the conclusions I have. So a really big shout out to him because he gave me a lot of really good leads. So watching Dead Rabbit Radio's podcast, he explains the urban legend as such. Back in, I don't even think he gave a date, but when he linked the 4chan post, which I'm going to get into later, it does say the date. It's 2012. There was this porn actress who told family and friends that she got sexually assaulted by a giant spider. And this propelled her in the Ganky underground pornography circuit, where if you don't know what Ganky is, fuck, how do I explain this? Oh, god damn it. Okay. You know that thing that you do with like another human being when you like them a lot? You don't have to like them that much, but just enough for you to show your, So imagine that except with like worms and cockroaches. Yeah. That's what Ganky is. It originates in Japan, and apparently it's been around for quite a while. And a couple of notable films are, I believe, the Squirmfest DVD series, and I think, I mean, if you really want to stretch it, because I don't know if this is Ganky, but I'm pretty sure, I'm fairly certain it is. It's called Terrible Meal. It's essentially like very disgusting pornography. Like, it's very extreme. It's on the very, very, very extreme side without getting into legally terrible territory. Like, without being straight up illegal. Like, this is as extreme as you can get as far as I'm aware. Is it considered bestiality? I mean, I guess. But, like, the law doesn't give a shit about insects, so I guess that's why they get off scot-free. But also, I don't know how it works in Japan. Like, if you get caught with this, do you go to jail? I don't know. Back to the story, it's said that she rose to fame in the Ganky circuit, you know, when she did things with, like, cephalopods and things like that, which is, I mean, I can't even imagine how that works, but I'm sure someone on Rule 34 will figure it out for me. Like, I don't have the IQ to figure that out in my own head. But anyway, upon researching her name, I got nothing. And I'm not really sure when else I can really bring this up and have it be relevant, so I'm just going to bring it up here. Sabinche Tomatovic has been also concluded at some point to mean tomato sandwich, like if you translate it from Serbian. This turned out to not be true. As far as I know, Sabinche is kind of like Will and Bill, or like William and Bill, where Sabinche is interchangeable with Sabrina. And Tomatovic is a fairly common last name for Serbians. So her name meaning tomato sandwich is probably bullshit, and really the entire existence of Sabinche herself could probably be considered bullshit too. Because, I mean, not even a rumor about her, like, other than this, has been spread around, and she has been famous in the Ganky circle, this very niche extreme circuit. All right. So John Carpenter goes on to talk about the Sabinche Tomatovic myth, which, for the record, John Carpenter is the host of Dead Rabbit Radio, just to avoid any confusion. He's the host. So when I say John, it's talking about Dead Rabbit Radio. John goes on about how he postulates that the cryptid in the film involving Sabinche Tomatovic is called the J'ba Fofi. Or that's what he's insinuating, because that was one of the first things he brought up. So the J'ba Fofi, what the fuck is that thing? The J'ba Fofi is a giant spider, or great spider in Congolese. And as you'd imagine, it resides in the Congo, supposedly. And one of the very earliest expeditions that led to the discovery of this thing, or at least the folklore of this thing, was led by Gibbons. It was William J. Gibbons. That was it. Sorry, I almost forgot the name. So William J. Gibbons went to the Congo, and the natives told him about this massive fucking spider. And the natives there were so matter of fact and so detailed as to how this spider worked, like the way its eggs looked, the way that it hunted, the way that it looked, what you were supposed to do if it got too close to your campsite, which was complete genocide. They also said that they were endangered because their environment's being encroached on. I have not seen a single report of this thing. I don't think the encroachers are the issue. I think it's the fact that you kill them. So aside from that odd and, quite frankly, inconsistent detail, there is another key detail in the myth of the J'ba Fofi that really puts into question if it can exist or not. There are reports from the Congo that say that it's 3 feet long. There are other reports from other parts of the world that say that it's like 6 feet long. Those are probably bullshit because science says it's bullshit. And that's something that John brings up, which it's another reason why I like John, because even if he does entertain some pretty preposterous ideas, he goes into it objectively. He goes into it scientifically, and I respect him for it. Science says that it can't work. In the short term is because of the exoskeleton. It would restrict its breathing, it would restrict its movement, and trying to molt would be a pain in the ass. It would be at such a disadvantage, it would be the offspring that would die immediately. Like, animals at some point have to breathe, and this thing just wouldn't. Now, John has a theory that is somewhat rooted in science, and I'll get into that. And I want to make this very clear. I'm not a biologist. I'm not even like a zoologist. I'm none of those things. I'm just a guy that looks up weird, cool stuff on the internet. But he talks about this theory that maybe something like this could exist. Well, not the 6-foot spider. That's That's ridiculous. That's never going to survive. That doesn't exist. But a 3-foot spider is probable because maybe there's a workaround to the way it breathes. And I feel like he's going off of the idea of what's called deep sea gigantism. And the reason why deep sea gigantism happens, you know, when you get like a fish that's like really, really below the surface of the earth, and they tend to be like fucking massive, like a giant squid. Fish evolve into that to have a better time getting oxygen out of the water. And I think that's what he's going off of. I could be wrong. Well, but for something like that to happen, the atmosphere has to be way, way different than everything else. And even if it was, like, if this did exist, well, like, the other animals in that ecosystem would have to be at least affected in some way, not necessarily bigger, but they would have to have some sort of adaptive trait that would allow them to survive in that environment. So I don't think that's really there. I don't think there's any sort of workaround that could exist without drastically changing the environment. Like the environment would have to change. It would have to be in an area that has a lot less oxygen because you would need that sort of body to intake it. Or as far as I know, again, I'm probably bastardizing this idea of deep sea gigantism. Again, I'm not a doctor. I'm not a scientist, but there are also a couple of comments that I've seen around YouTube while I was doing my sleuthing that, oh, the Congo has more oxygen, so maybe the spider is bigger because of the oxygen. I'm like, that's dumb. That's stupid. Like, why aren't the other animals, like, fucking massive? Okay, so the 3-foot spider thing is ridiculous. The 6-foot spider thing is ridiculous. There was one theory that John brought up that I didn't think was ridiculous. In fact, I thought it was a very significant lead. It was the coconut crab. Yes, I know it's a crab, not a spider, but follow along with me because it's going to make sense. Getting back to what the natives said about the J'ba Fofi, they said that it has been known to grow up to 3 feet. The coconut crab has been known to grow up to 3 feet 3 inches. Now, it is on Wikipedia, and Wikipedia gets a lot of this shit wrong, but I mean, the takeaway is that it's fucking ginormous. And you know, it's not like they measured the J'ba Fofi, because I mean, how would they measure it? While it's running at them? I mean, they would have to kill it first, right? Where's the body? So going off of the more likely coconut crab theory, I went and did my own research, like a true expeditionist would. John did put a couple of links in the video, one of them being a 4chan post that talks about the Sabinche Tomatovic tape, and the other one that actually talked about the coconut crab theory, so that's probably where he got it from too. The rest of the links seem to be dead. They just don't function anymore. So I put the 4chan link to the side for now, and I actually looked up more about the J'ba Fofi on this website called the Cryptid Wiki. To say what I've read was eye-opening would be an understatement. Turns out Bill Gibbons, the guy that did the expedition, wasn't even looking for the damn thing. He was just kind of told it in passing, and then he started asking around, or at least that's what I'm led to believe. He was looking for this other animal, completely different cryptid, called the Mokele M'bembe. And I mean, just imagine the most crude doodle of a brontosaurus you can imagine. That's what this thing is. Why don't they call it just a brontosaurus is beyond me. Like, I know this is the Congo. They're not going to speak English. They're definitely not speaking Latin. But but everyone else calls it the Mokele M'bembe too. Why can't they just call it the damn brontosaurus? Like, there's no visual difference between the two. Anyway, other small detail that kind of raised a red flag in my head amongst like a couple of other ones that I've come across just reading this. This was his 3rd expedition. What? So there was this giant spider just chilling, and no one thought to tell you about it. A giant spider that apparently can take down a human, like an adult human, not a baby or a toddler. Like, we're talking Wilt Chamberlain. What did you do on those other 2 expeditions that pissed him off so much? So after I was finished wrapping my head around something that retarded, I started going back to my original goal of trying to make connections between this giant spider that no one told him about and the Mokele M'bembe, sorry, the coconut crab. Turns out what the people said about it and what the coconut crab looks like and how it behaves, it's like scary consistent. I was convinced that this is what it was. The people have said that fucking Mokele M'bembe. We'll get to you later. That the J'ba Fofi, the giant spider, has a purple mark on its abdomen. The coconut crabs are frequently seen in shades of blue. Like you can see them in a mixture of like red and blue, purple and blue, you know, because what does red and blue make? They make purple. They have been seen in shades of purple. Just Google it, like you can find them. And I knew I was onto something when I thought the whole encroachment thing was bullshit, because apparently these coconut crabs are endangered because of hunting. So, you know how these people said that they had to kill these spiders because if they were too close to their habitat, they had to destroy the nest or something, and now they're endangered? These things are endangered too. This could be like they've been hunted down and they've been wiped away. Oh shit. People of the Congo said that that the J'ba Fofi is also very toxic and poisonous. Coconut crabs have the chance of being toxic to humans because of their tendency to eat what's called a sea mango, and that is poisonous to humans. Now, how poisonous, I don't know. I mean, technically alcohol is poisonous to you, but I mean, you wouldn't want it in your body. No, you cannot get high off it. As far as I know, just don't do it. Now you might be thinking, wait, they're crabs, they go in the water. If these people are mistaking J'ba Fofis, these giant spiders, for coconut crabs, shouldn't we have some reports of giant spiders in the water? No, because as coconut crabs mature, they lose their ability to breathe. And now here's a real kicker. Coconut crabs in areas with coconuts are larger than the coconut crabs in areas with no coconuts. And guess who has coconuts? The Congo. I was already convinced that this had to have been where it started. It had to have been where it started. But I kept reading and the evidence only piled up more. There is evidence that suggests that coconut crabs used to live around other parts of the world. According to Wikipedia, yes, I know, I'm going back to Wikipedia again, but you know, even if this is wrong, it doesn't discount everything else that I found. So let's just read this. Wikipedia says, some evidence indicates the coconut crab once lived on the mainland of Australia, Madagascar, Rodriguez, Easter Island, Tokelau, the Marquesas Islands, and possibly India, but is now extirpated in those areas. As they cannot swim as adults, coconut crabs must have colonized the islands as planktonic larvae. Now, to the more keen listeners, if you guys are still listening despite my shit voice right now, I'm sorry. This sickness has been kicking my ass. And of course, as soon as I get my notes finished, that's when the sickness comes in. But anyway, you may have noticed the Congo wasn't listed there. I do have a theory. There have been cases of invasive species being on boats and carried to other parts of the world, such as the lanternfly and stink bug, which I believe both came from China, but don't quote me on that. And yeah, I don't think it's that impossible to think that maybe these coconut crabs were on a ship as planktonic larvae and they made their way to the Congo. And then slowly but surely over time, they killed them all off and none of it was documented, so it just became this big urban legend. I don't think that's too crazy. The two other key details about the J'ba Fofi that I want to go over really quick is where it lives and why people killed it. I'll just mention this really quick and gloss over it. It is said that the J'ba Fofi lives underground, much like a trapdoor spider. So does the coconut crab, so we can check that off as a similarity as well. It lives underground. Well, maybe not underground, but it lives in like a little hole that it digs out. It's basically underground. The other detail that's very important is how dangerous they are. This is sort of inconsistent because, yeah, I mean, they're big and scary, but they're not a danger to humans. They haven't been known to kill anyone. Meanwhile, the J'ba Fofi is like out here like murking people with no evidence, but still. No, they are not killers. But they'll take down a house cat. Oh yeah, there is video of this thing taking down a bird. I'm not even shitting you. This thing is so strong and big that it can take down a blue-footed booby. Get your laughs out now. And I think after seeing that, I wouldn't blame anyone for looking at that thing and being like, oh my God, I'm next. The other thing about coconut crabs that makes them a general nuisance is that they're opportunistic scavengers and kleptomaniacs. They have been known to steal entire stoves. I don't know how you manage that, but I mean, I'm not gonna go up and ask a coconut crab how he managed to do that. I'm just gonna be more freaked out that I don't have a stove anymore. That thing took it, and I'm probably not eating soup for a while. Like, I want you guys to understand how freaking strong these things are. This thing has been recorded to steal and break a golf club. What the hell? Like, they steal whiskey bottles, they steal tools. These things are just a general pain in the ass. They're like very massive, scary freaking cockroaches. No wonder they got killed. One last thing I want to mention. There is this urban legend. Because they're scavengers, they have been rumored to eat the remains of Amelia Earhart. Could this be the rumor, or at least the idea that the J'ba Fofi eats people comes from? Is this where it came from? Not the Amelia Earhart thing, like it's not that. But just the fact that maybe these coconut crabs have been known to eat corpses. I don't know what a human corpse would be doing just lying around there. I sure people, even in the Congo, bury their dead relatives and dead friends and just dead anybody. But I don't know. Like, that's as good of a guess as I could come up with. And I should make this clear that they are opportunistic scavengers. They don't just eat the dead. They will do it if they, at least from what it sounds like, if they have to. So, and when I say bodies, Google says organic matter, like eat other animal carcasses and the molten skeletons of other crustaceans. So, not really an entire human, but you could see where I can make the connection. Or I don't know, has anyone even tried that yet? When I die, just put me next to a bunch of coconut crabs and see if they eat it. And then we can see if there's any credence to this myth. So that's where my research left me. Pretty convinced it was a fucking coconut crab. But there was one thing I couldn't explain. And it's this one detail that killed me. How do you explain the eggs? Because the Congolese people said, according to them, the eggs of a J'ba Fofi are small, white, peanut-shaped eggs. The eggs of a coconut crab look nothing like that. They kind of look like red gelatin. Or, well, you know Orbeez? Do you guys remember that shit where you put the water in them and they grow? They look like little, like, translucent balls. They were red. And they're very tiny. And that's what a coconut crab's eggs look like. I don't know. I couldn't explain it. The best guess that I could come up with is maybe they saw a young coconut crab come out of a malformed coconut? But that didn't really make sense. I don't know. So as much as I wanted to think it was a coconut crab, and I had some pretty damning evidence to support this, because of that one detail, I had to put it to the side. I decided to go through a bunch of other sources that were listed on the Cryptid Wiki, and on the Wiki, it mentioned that the fullest account by Westerners is in a book by George Eberhardt. Would have been nice if you told me the name of the book, but, you know, that's fine. I'll just go look for it myself, and thankfully I did. The book is called Mysterious Creatures, A Guide to Cryptozoology. On page 204, its sources Chad Arment and Carl Schuker. And the source that stemmed from Chad Arment is... strap in for this one. North American Biofortean Review, Volume 3, Number 2, Issue Number 7, October 2001. Just rolls off the tongue. Under the section CZ Conversations, Giant Spiders, CZ means cryptozoology. I was stupid enough to believe it meant Czechoslovakia. I don't even know why I thought that, but it's cryptozoology. And even in the paper, it states that giant spiders just in general are a controversial topic because of what I said about the exoskeletons earlier, like they wouldn't really be able to breathe, molt, or move. But I read on because I wanted to leave no stone unturned. Turns out William J. Gibbons is actually referenced as a source in this book, In this book, it says explorer Bill Gibbons collected the following from Miss Margaret M. Lloyd, who related to him a story of her parents' run-in with a hairy arachnid. Miss Margaret M. Lloyd couldn't find anything about it. There was another source that came from Peter Hines, Hynes, so I believe it's Hines. Couldn't find anything on him either. So, as far as I know, these people don't exist. Well, it's really weird for Peter Hines because it says in the book that he's an Australian cryptid investigator. So, it didn't come from like a third-hand source. It came directly from someone who is an investigator. But then, I can't find anything. I don't know, that struck me as odd. So we have two people that are complete no-shows, but the most tangible name that I did find was Bill Gibbons, also known as William J. Gibbons. You know, the guy that was expeditioning 3 times in a row without being told there was a giant fucking spider. One last detail before we move on, because I figure that this is worth mentioning, and hopefully someone hears this and they fix it. It says the fullest account by Westerners appears in a cryptozoological book by George Eberhardt. On page 204, Eberhardt relates the terrifying experience of an English couple, and then it proceeds to tell the story that Gibbons told, so it's not Eberhardt's story, it is William J. Gibbons' story. I figured that was important, and it should be fixed. Because that means this isn't a completely separate account, it's just hearsay from Gibbons. So it sounds like a lot of this bullshit is coming from Gibbons himself. So I investigated him. He seemed like the most promising lead. Upon typing in William J. Gibbons into Google, a search result came up for him having a spot on a show called Coast to Coast, which I believe is some sort of supernatural talk show or something like that. I'm not really sure what it is. Apparently it was on like Discovery Channel or History Channel or some fuck like that. I don't catch up with this sort of TV. I don't know. But it's some sort of program that specializes in the supernatural and unexplained. And typically when you have a guest, you plug your website underneath it. There was a whole section for William J. Gibbons on the Coast to Coast site. And the only website that was credited to him as a website you could visit was the Institute of Creationist Research. Oh shit. Things just went sideways. Now, I am not shitting on creationism. I am not shitting on even, like, Christianity in general. There have been plenty of scientists that have made important and relevant discoveries that have also been faithful to Christianity. I mean, Galileo was a goddamn Catholic. So this isn't about me tainting the image of God or Christ or creation or none of that. But this was a big red flag. Anytime that you see the word creationist, anytime you see the word like young earth or old earth or anything like that, red flag. Because that means sometimes, I won't even say typically, sometimes, because again, I know there's a lot of Christians in the scientific field that both believe in God and are very acclaimed and reputable scientists. Anytime I see it, it's a red flag because there's a good chance, not a good chance, there is a chance that they're researching for an agenda. They research to prove something they already believe in as a form of confirmation bias. I wanted to believe the best and think, okay, maybe he's religious and he's a creationist, but he looks at everything scientifically. I mean, as far as I know, John Carpenter, who, again, is the host of Dead Rabbit Radio, as far as I know, he's a very religious man, or at least somewhat religious. He believes in God, but he looks at everything scientifically. He's not a fool. He's not just going to research to confirm what he already wants to believe. When I looked up Institute for Creation Research, William J. Gibbons into Google, even though the links didn't seem to function, or at least they didn't load for me at the time, they might work now. But based off a screenshot that I will put in the description, it said, "My name is Bill, and I am the Information Technology Manager at the Institute for Creation Research. I keep everything technical running." Fuck. That didn't look good at all. Okay, so I'm wondering where these anecdotes even stemmed from. What is the genesis? What is the origin of all these anecdotes? Turns out Gibbons published 2 books, at least 2 books that are relevant to the subject. Missionaries and Monsters, and Searching for Ropins and Finding God. What the fuck? This, I mean, the more I looked into this guy, the worse it looked. The worse it looked. Like, this guy is researching for all the wrong reasons. All the wrong reasons. And I'm not just going off of, Christianity. It says fucking missionary. It didn't look good. Didn't look good. But again, I kept a level head, and I thought, maybe he's just really passionate about it. Maybe I still wanted to believe that this guy's researching for the right reasons. And unfortunately, when I looked up these books on Google Books, which is a source that I used multiple times when looking into this creature, there was no preview. There was no preview for either Missionaries and Monsters or Searching for Ropins and Finding God. There was one guy, I swear to God, it was a completely different book which talked about the Mokele M'bembe, which was the creature he was looking for instead of the J'ba Fofi. One store, it was like $50. Go fuck yourself. I'm not paying $50 just to be told about a monster that doesn't exist. I'm not doing that. So, fuck that. I'm not paying $50. I'm not paying anything for a podcast I'm going to get nothing out of, that I'm just doing this for fun. Like, I'm not stupid. I stopped it right here as far as William J. Gibbons was concerned. So right now it looked like an unreliable source. I stopped it, just said, all right, let's lay this to rest and look at the other name a while back that I found. And we have to go all the way back to that initial book by George Eberhardt, Mysterious Creatures, A Guide to Cryptozoology. So with that source, I began researching about an individual named Carl Schuker, better known as Dr. Carl P.N. Schuker, who is a British zoologist. Yes! Okay, a guy who I know for a fact is in the field, and from what I understand, he is very reputable. He goes about everything in a very scientific, very objective point of view. He's had a couple dark spots in the past where he wrote a book about dragons and like the accounts of it, blah, blah, blah. And he didn't mention like the crocodile or something like that as being like one of the ideas for a dragon. I don't know. I'm going completely off of memory. I didn't write that down in the notes because it's not important. Apparently, he's also credited to spreading the popularity of the Mongolian deathworm. So that was cool. So back to Carl P.N. Schuker himself. He was a frequent writer on the Fortean Times, which, as far as I know, is still ongoing. I might be wrong. From what I can tell, it's still continuously being in syndication. That was redundant, but whatever. The Fortean Times, as a magazine, from what I understand, is very sensationalist. It centers all around these cryptids, the unknown, UFOs, ghosts, demons, you know, like weird science, unexplained phenomena, like spontaneous combustion. And it really seemed to bank on retelling absurd stories. Now, despite Dr. P.N. Schuker's work being fairly science-based, a lot of his work revolves around retelling stories. From what I've read of him, he's just retelling something that he heard. And I'm not trying to paint him in a certain way. Like, I'm not. But I had this initial feeling that he was doing all of this for money. So we have one guy who's doing it for religion, the other guy that was just doing it to get a paycheck, like he's retelling all these stories, because I think you get like, 15 cents per word, depending on what kind of publication you work for. So my mind went to, oh God, he better not be just doing these absurd stories for money. No, it turns out he has his own website. And it's super wholesome because at the very bottom, I think, he has a dedication to his dead friend and his dead mom. I mean, that's cute. I mean, I couldn't hate him. I couldn't hate him after that. Even if he was just doing it for money. That's so wholesome and nice. I mean, that's cute. But I went through his websites, his external links. No, he's like really passionate about it. He's not doing this for money. He just really likes what he's doing. Though from what I gather, the stuff he does for Fortean Times is a little bit more tongue-in-cheek. The stuff that he does on his website and things he does on his own is taken a lot more seriously. The source that was attached to the name was Strange Magazine. It was number 19, which is definitely a strange source to get anything from, because when I looked up Strange Magazine, it also seemed to be a very sensationalist paper talking about Area 51 Bigfoot, and it really wants to find the Thunderbird photo. I don't know how, I don't know when else. I don't know when else I get to talk about this, but man, I swear to God, like 6 copies in a row, they're like, hey, we're still finding the Thunderbird photo. And considering that it ended on, what, issue 23, and the website looks like it's from 1995, like it has a fucking visitor counter at the bottom of it. That's how old it is. Like that shit was old in 2001. So judging by the fact it's probably not in syndication anymore, I'm going to assume they didn't find the Thunderbird photo. And so I went and searched and sleuthed for a copy of Strange Magazine. Even if it wasn't the issue I was looking for, maybe I could get an issue where Dr. P and Shuker was in a different source or in a different magazine, so I can get an idea of what he wrote about, so I could determine whether it's like bullshit. Like if it sounds like bullshit, I can pass it off as bullshit. Couldn't find anything. I found Gay Erotica, like a gay magazine, archived in there when I was looking for Strange Magazine, so thank you, Internet Archive. Good to know you have my back on this one. So because I ran out of options, I decided to go through the most direct route I can think of. I emailed Dr. Shuker himself. It was gonna be a long shot, but I emailed him pretty much saying, hey, there was an article you did in Strange Magazine number 19. Do you have a scan of it? Do you recall what you said in that magazine? Do you know if you got it from William J. Gibbons? Thank you for your time. That was like the shorthand version of it. And I waited. While I waited, I decided that I didn't investigate the original 4chan post enough. So I went to the original 4chan post, and the post that had the most detailed description of the Sabinche Tomatovic incident was very weird. It mentioned that it happened in Sandžak, Serbia. What the fuck? So, and on top of that, even weirder, he didn't put a title of the book. So you remember what place it happened, like to a T, but you don't remember the title? And you remember that it happened in 2012. But again, like no title. That's really weird. So it's even more bizarre because when he's talking about this urban legend, it's in quotes as if it's a direct transcript from the book. So either he was reading off of the book, typing it in, and just chose not to show the title, or he's bullshitting. Guess which one I lean towards? Even if this thing existed, which it definitely doesn't, from everything I'm hearing, there's no way that this is the J'ba Fofi. I think people conflated this incident with the J'ba Fofi because the poster said it was found, like this incident was reported in a book about cryptids. Like, oh, cryptid, giant spider, must be the J'ba Fofi. But like, it lives in the fucking Congo. And this is Serbia. Like, no animal on the planet would be able to survive in both. So, thank the Lord, thank the heavens for Google Books. Because you want to know something, man? Knowing that there was the date 2012 and seeing that the original 4chan post was in 2017, that gave me a very good window to look for cryptid books. And while I don't think I found the one that he was referring to, well, I mean, I know for a fact I didn't. I came across a book called Abominable Science, and it mentions the Mokele M'bembe and the J'ba Fofi by name. Oh shit, I have to look into this. And man, is this like a good reason you check the original source? Man, is this a good reason why you leave no stone unturned? Because when I saw this book and when I read the contents of it, it painted a very clear picture of what was actually going on. Now, I will admit, the way that this book is written is in a very humorous and a very aggressively, like, anti-Mokele M'bembe fashion, if you even want, if that's even like a way to describe it. Like, it's almost like, the way it's written, it's almost like he's like clowning on him. But I did cross-reference a lot of the things that were said, and Yeah, it's probably true. So let me read you the Mokele M'bembe chapter of the Abominable Science book. Although Mokele M'bembe seeker William Gibbons has insisted that, quote, these people have nothing whatsoever to gain from telling stories because we don't pay them. They get no reward from us doing this. He also has described both financial transactions and monetary disputes between foreign hunters and, for example, the residents of the village of Boha near Lake Tele. Gibbons reported that the villagers were angry that the expedition led by Herman and Kia Regusters? Yeah, Regusters, okay. Led by Herman and Kia Regusters in 1981 had failed to fulfill, quote, promises of gifts and money. And that one expedition had been left stranded at the lake in 1987 by the local guides after refusing to pay more than the agreed price. So money's definitely involved in this. Oh, and there was also supposed to be a Discovery Channel documentary about the Mokele M'bembe. It was so shitty that Discovery Channel dropped it because there was no evidence. They didn't find anything. Let me ask you something. Do you know how shit you have to be to get dumped by the Discovery Channel? Discovery Channel is a station that plays Finding Bigfoot, a show where no one finds Bigfoot, and Ghost Adventures, where a bunch of grown-ass adults go into an old building and start screaming at it. Really quick before I read a little bit more to this book, because this is important. I know I'm doing a lot of reading and not so much explaining and entertaining, but trust me, this is important. They actually don't mention the J'ba Fofi by name, but you're going to figure out really quick that they're talking about the same spider. I just wanted to fix that, like, now that I'm reading it again. You know, we all make mistakes. Despite this embarrassment, an American insurance broker and creationist, I'm emphasizing that for a reason, named Milt Marcy offered to foot the bill for Gibbons' next expedition, which visited Langoe, I'm assuming that's Langoe, Cameroon, in 2003. This trip was notable for introducing yet another type of giant monster, giant spiders. Having heard from an English woman who claimed that her parents once spotted a spider at least 4 or 5 feet in length, Gibbons asked the villagers if they knew of any such giant arachnid, and indeed they did. In a remarkable coincidence, these monsters, strong enough to overpower and kill a human being, lived right around the village. So it's not... So it's not enough that this thing was not mentioned, but you were in its territory and no one told you about it and you just didn't think that was suspicious. At no point did you think these guys are full of shit. Like, according to Gibbons himself, his immediate reaction was, at that moment, wrote Gibbons, I felt like drowning myself in the river, a golden opportunity to capture a rare and completely unclassified species of a giant arachnid had eluded us. That was your initial reaction? Not, you guys are dicks because you didn't tell me that a spider could kill me? Like twice? What the fuck? Oh, I could have caught it. This is like the same mentality where it's like, oh, I could have beaten the crap out of that bear if I was there. And you see like, or like when you see someone getting beat up, like, oh, if I was there, I would have beat him up. Like just, it's like the same mentality. Like, oh man, if only I had known, I would have captured him. I would have been like the action hero in this story. Like, oh my fucking Lord. And even weirder, it's just never brought up again. Not a single time is this fucking thing brought up again. They just go back to trying to find a dinosaur they failed at capturing twice. And considering they didn't find shit here either, we could put a third tally mark on the board. Now, I could stop the research right here, at least as far as what abominable science has to offer, but I want to put this here, in case there was any doubt. From his own words, in case there is any doubt about our motivation for this work, I should tell you that we feel that the discovery of any of these creatures will be an earth-shaking event. It is our belief that eliminating common objections regarding why the Bible can't be trusted and demonstrating the historical and scientific accuracy of Scripture will naturally lead many people to the next logical step in thinking. What if the Bible is true in other aspects? What does that tell us about its spiritual ramifications? When the evolution hypothesis was proposed 150 years ago, it was with the expressed intent of destroying the church and Christianity along with it. If a wrench of this kind can be thrown into the machinery of evolution, it would go a long way toward turning people back to the only real truth, the Word of God. So that pretty much answers that. William J. Gibbons is not a scientist. He is not even a cryptozoologist. He is a religious fundamentalist, a Bible thumper that hijacked cryptozoology. He wants to find the Mokele M'bembe to disprove the theory of evolution, or at least fight back against it, what is established. Now, what the fuck does this have to do with this stupid brontosaurus? I will tell you. According to him, if he can prove that humans and dinosaurs coexisted, it would mean that evolution, at least what we know of it, would have to erase 45 million years of work. And that means the world is much younger than we think. And that means God made the world because, according to the Bible, the earth is young. I know that still kind of seems like a big disconnect, but I'm not a young earth creationist. I can't answer this for you. Now, let me make something very clear. This is not to shit on young earth creationism. This is not to shit on creationism, Christianity, the Bible, the word of scripture, the word of God, whatever. I am making fun of William J. Gibbons because he clearly does not know what he's doing. This is hysterical. It doesn't even matter like what side of the fence you're on. This guy's a goober. And we didn't even get to the Monster Quest episode yet. Oh yeah. For those of you who grew up like I did, you already know what time it is. But if you didn't, I feel so bad for you because Monster Quest was just one of those shows that you just had to be alive to experience. It was like Lost Tapes, except it sucked. But we still took it and we still watched it because, I mean, we were just weird like that. Now, Monster Quest was this show where people set out into the wilderness, into like just generally wooded areas or wherever there were sightings of cryptids, and they just filmed there, and they never really found anything. The coolest one that I saw from that series was the one about the Jersey Devil, where they made this big fucking sculpture of the Jersey Devil. And of course, like, they brought in a bunch of people to see if that's what it looked like. Like, oh yeah, that's exactly what I saw. I don't know what that proves, but sculpture's cool. I would have it in my house. Well, maybe not in my room. I'd put it up like a gargoyle, like, yeah, right on top of the door or something like that to like scare off, I don't know, evil spirits, the neighbors. I'm getting off topic. Look, the Monster Quest episode, it wasn't even a good Monster Quest episode. The whole thing was horse shit. So, William J. Gibbons, and I'm totally going off of memory. It doesn't even matter. I'm going to have both a link to this video so you can watch it yourself and an archive. So by the time this is uploaded, it will be on archive.net. So just if you want to see it for yourself and make your own conclusion, all my sources are there. Every single source I have is going to be in the description, so you don't have to worry about any of that. William J. Gibbons goes into the Congo during like rainy season, and there are nothing but dirt roads. And within the first 5 minutes of the episode, the bus is stuck. Great content. And then it gets stuck again. Again, great content. Then they go to a place where they supposedly saw evidence of a Mokele M'bembe, and it was where there was this big fucking footprint. It's a weird piece of evidence because they found one big crater in the ground that looks uncannily like a footprint. I'll give you that. Where are the other footprints? Why aren't there more shit destroyed? I don't think about it too much. Oh god, this is like the most, and I'm going off the most embarrassing part of the episode, like, because this is fucking insane. So this creature that has been known to destroy kayaks, kill people, like hurt people, be very aggressive, and be very territorial as far as I know, this motherfucker goes up to where he thinks there's a hole by the river where he thinks it's like a ventilation tube for the Mokele M'bembe. I can't even like go into detail as to how fucking stupid that is. How the fuck do you know that it just pops its head out of the ground like that one Pokemon, like Diglett? How do you even know that? You never even touched it. You never seen it. So also, by the way, like, again, I'm trying not to go into a lot of detail about how fucking dumb this is, but I can't help it. So this thing is like a stegosaurus. How would it fit under the river? How could it make a hole that is so big that it could fit its head in and have a ventilation tube? Like, how do you know it does this, and how is it even possible? Like, this makes my fucking brain melt. But, okay, and in case that wasn't dumb enough, what does Gibbons decide to do? He gets a stick and starts poking the hole. I couldn't make up something this stupid if you gave me a week. So so this fucking thing that could absolutely maul him to death, like, he is going into its habitat and irritating it with a stick, probably poking its eyes out. What was the plan if it decided to, like, harm him? What would happen if he came out? What was the plan? It didn't look like they had guns or any sort of, like, safety. Like, one guy's wearing, like, a PlayStation shirt. How prepared were they really? Oh my god, it's just like the dumbassery. Like, and what's even weirder is that they put cameras across like a bunch of random trees in the area, but they don't put a camera down in the hole where they think the living Mokele M'bembe is. And then they mention that there's like a forbidden zone, and they try to paint it as, oh, this is where the Mokele M'bembe might be like lurking. Ooh, that's why it's so dangerous. But then they gloss over the fact there's a civil war going on. Is the Mokele M'bembe really worth getting sniped over? I'm not like I'm really working myself up here, but like I implore you guys, I beg you guys to watch this Monster Quest video because it's so stupid. I didn't even get to the best part. I'll just play it right now.
Not only the animal's size, but the sound that it made terrified the boy.
I'll just let that speak for itself. I mean, the horse shit they put on TV back then, I don't know if it's gotten any better now. I gave up on cable and streaming and all of that. I just listen to music now. So, I'm going to leave it up to you guys. Did TV get any better than this? Or was this the apex? Be sure to tell me in the comments. So, while I'm laughing my ass off over this stupid Monster Quest video, I actually get an email back from Dr. Carl P. N. Schuker. Yeah, you remember him? He sent back a message saying, ignore that shit because it's irrelevant, it's outdated. Yes, I did use William J. Gibbons as a source. I think we could lay the J'ba Fofi to rest. So, with all of that shit out of the way, where does that leave Sabinche Tomatovic? I know this was really more about the J'ba Fofi than Sabinche Tomatovic, but I think the initial reason why this was on a conspiracy iceberg was because if this Sabinche Tomatovic film came out, it would prove the existence of this legendary cryptid. I guess if anything, we can rule out the J'ba Fofi. It doesn't exist. It was a byproduct of someone who was much more concerned with spreading the word of God than he was about discovering anything. Like, if God was a cryptid, he'd fail at doing that too. As far as the actress and the film itself, does such a thing exist? Let's go back to Dead Rabbit Radio's initial idea that it was a coconut crab. I disagree. Remember when it said that there was this whole Ganky thing that she got propelled into stardom with? Ganky is a very Japanese genre. It originated in Japan, which leads me to believe that it was a crab, but it wasn't a coconut crab. If this thing exists, it has to be a Japanese spider crab. Coconut crabs grow up to 3 feet. Japanese spider crabs grow up to 12 feet. These things are fucking ginormous. What's more likely, they got this fairly endangered species from halfway across the globe, or did they get something that's right at their shore? I think if this exists, and if it is a Ganky film, and chances are Sabinche Tomatovic is a made-up name, it's probably a spider crab. That's my best guess. specifically a Japanese one, because those things are massive. Now, aside from the whole cryptid thing, there was another angle to this entry in the conspiracy iceberg that I don't think people thought about. As far as I know, Sabinche Tomatovic is in fact untraceable. Let's say she exists. Has there ever been a porn star that was successful, gone without a trace? Yes. Bambi Woods, also known as the leading role in Debbie Does Dallas, one of the most famous, lucrative, and iconic pieces of pornography in the 70s, disappeared without a trace, and that was her only movie she was in. Private investigators in the 90s went looking for her, and they were told by her parents that she's living a quiet life in Des Moines, Iowa. Even a very young, very pretty, very successful porn star can disappear without a trace. And there were many rumors that she was dead, that she died of a drug overdose, when apparently she's alive and well, according to her parents at the time. Could Sabinche Tomatovic be another case of that? A porn star that rose to legendary status, only to be wiped off the face of the planet without any trace whatsoever. The world of pornography is dark, it is scummy, and it is free of morals. Sure, there's plenty of pornographic companies that are legitimate, but there's no denying that there is a dark side to it, a traumatic side to it. What if Sabinche Tomatovic is a victim of this, and this urban legend is the only trace she has? Maybe it's not even about the J'ba Fofi. Maybe it's about the porn star that went missing and never came back. There are admittedly non-verifiable rumors that a lot of these Ganky films were made as a way to pay off debt to the Yakuza. Could Sabinche Tomatovic be a helpless victim that got caught up with a dirty business and the wrong people, and it ended up making her infamous, and she had no choice but to disappear forever? I'll catch you next time on Out of Sight, Out of Mind.